Joining us now for World Brief and a review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is fresh from New York, the 79th hunger, as international correspondent for Arise News, Adefemi Akinsanya. Adefemi Akinsanya, good to see you back in the studio.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Rubin.
Here, there, everywhere. Our international correspondent, you're most welcome back.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Happy Independence Day. Happy birthday to Nigeria. I can see we're all sporting green in our own very special ways. Except for Rufai, but I know that he's green in spirit. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
We'll match together.
Wow, it's a green day.
It is a green day. All righty, well, moving on now to the World Brief. Is Israel expanding war from Gaza to Lebanon to Iran to Yemen? Well, the United States has announced Israeli forces are currently conducting limited ground operations targeting Hezbollah inside Lebanon. But there are civilian casualties. At least 10 people have been reported dead after the Israeli military bombed a home in the town of Al-Dawodia amid heavy shelling and tank fire along the border between the two countries. The reports followed fresh airstrikes in Lebanon, including on central Beirut, which is happening for the first time in nearly 20 years, and came after Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, earlier told community leaders that the next phase of the war against Hezbollah would begin soon. Let's not forget that this is not the first time Israel has performed ground raids into Lebanon. They did so in 1982, before Hezbollah was even formed, and then again in 2006, and now once more in 2024. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned Tehran, the Iranian capital, could be struck anywhere in the region at will. He says there is nowhere in the Middle East Israel cannot reach, and he said that in a video addressed to the Iranian people. Now, the Middle East has been on the brink of an all-out war for almost a year, but this is by far the most dangerous moment we've seen so far. Israel's multi-pronged assaults in Gaza, Yemen, and Lebanon show long-standing deterrence has been ripped up. The United States, too, has flip-flopped once again on its rhetoric. After calling for a ceasefire, the United States has also released a statement shifting its position to support Israel's ground operation in Lebanon. The interesting thing here is that they're discussing about how this is a limited attack. I know I'll come to you all for your comments, but I do think that we have to be careful with the language because there's nothing small or limited about what is being perpetuated in Lebanon and across the Middle East. Let's move on now to France. And French far-right leader Marine Le Pen denied violating any rules as she and her National Rally Party and 24 others went on trial on Monday accused of embezzling European parliamentary funds. This is a case that has the potential to derail her political ambitions. Arriving at the court in Paris, Le Pen said, "We have not violated any political and regulatory rules of the European Parliament," and vowed to present extremely serious and extremely solid arguments in this trial. Now, the trial will last 9 weeks and will be closely watched by Le Pen's political rivals, as she is a strong contender in the race to succeed Emmanuel Macron when the next presidential election takes place in 2027. And finally, moving on to the African continent, and an instant porridge has been withdrawn from sale in South Africa after 3 young children died reportedly after eating it. Police say the children, aged 18 months to 4 years old, had complained of stomach aches after eating top score instant porridge before they died on Friday. Now, Supermarket Spar, where the porridge was purchased, has instructed all stores to remove the product from its shelves. It's a Namibian company, which made that porridge, Namib Mills, and they have, however, said that there is currently no evidence linking their product to this unfortunate event, but they are taking the matter very seriously. It then also went on to extend its condolences to the families who have been affected and said that their product would be removed while investigations continue.
Okay. I mean, they must get to the end of that investigation so we see what's really going on. And I know the compensation can't bring the lives of those kids back, sure, but something must be done about it. And I see litigations. As regards Israel, both of them, both Israel and Lebanon, with this full escalation, have violated Resolution 1701 that ended the Lebanon war in 2006, and which they told them that you must not go beyond the Blue Line area and the Lviv River. But Israel is now making incursions into Lebanon territory. They say, oh, it's a very small attack. There's another side to it that, there's not been confirmed report that they've actually made the incursions as much as possible. That's what some Middle Eastern press, like Al Jazeera of this world, are reporting. But the Israelis said they are in there. There's been talks about the deputy leader of Hezbollah now telling Israel that they can come in, sort of like a bait, so that they'll be able to attack them. If you look historically, Israel has always encountered a lot of problems anytime they go into Lebanon because of the fighting force out of Lebanon and what happens. You remember they first went in 82. They stayed there for a couple of years. 2006, again, they had ground incursions, but they suffered heavy casualties. Right. Amidst all of this happening, you're still having the fighting, the crisis in Gaza going on. And the Americans, just yesterday, Joe Biden was pushing for the ceasefire. It looks as though Netanyahu's not going to listen to all of that rhetoric. He knows what he's doing. So
America
is it that
force him to listen if they stop giving him the arms and the military support?
But America is so hypocritical because of the deep state. They'll never do that.
I'm with you, I agree.
Have you forgotten the last time they slammed him for doing something wrong? The next minute they were giving him arms again. So it's not even about Joe Biden. I mean, if you hear anecdotal evidence, the likes of Barack Obama when he was president couldn't stand, the Israeli leadership. But they cannot do that because they have vested interests like the deep states and also the fact that it's an election year.
Yes.
All right, let me go to France. Marie Le Pen's trial is meant to start on Monday. Yes. Now, it's a very interesting case because they've had to backdate the case. But it was when she served in the European Parliament.
Yes.
She's also actually being tried alongside her father, who is the founder of the of AREN, and who, unfortunately, because of his age, is over 90 or 96 years old, would not be able to appear in court. But the accusation is that they had staff that were supposed to work with them in the European Parliament,
yes,
and they were said to be serving their party's office. In fact, that one of the staff members was a personal bodyguard to her and her dad. So there are a number of questions there. Of course, she's innocent until proven guilty. She has, like you said, over 9 weeks to prove her case that indeed the functions didn't cross and that the staff members who were paid by European Parliament money actually did the work exclusively for that. But it just goes to show again, as I always talk about, in terms of accountability and how things run in other countries, and that you will pay years down the line. Now, the unfortunate thing is that, like you said, she's a strong opposition to Macron in the next election. But if she's found guilty, she could pay fines, she could be imprisoned, and she could be ineligible to run for political office for the next 10 years. So that's the big story, that if it's going to affect not just her reputation, not just her paying back monies that was owed. In fact, the party had paid 1 million euros, even though they say that's not an admittance of guilt. But that is very suspicious. But she will have her day in court to defend herself and the party. It's not just her, about 20 others in the party are also going to face this.
Okay, it was Antonio Guterres and other concerned persons on the international plane that warned about the escalation of conflict in the Middle East, and everyone was advising Israel and the other parties to pull back from the brink. But now it looks like they were right at the brink, with Israel fighting on 3 fronts. The Houthi rebels fighting proxy war against Iran in Yemen, the Hamas in Gaza, and then the Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The original intent of the Israelis is to say those cities in northern Israel that have been displaced about a year ago as a result of conflict with the Hezbollah, Netanyahu says he wants to regain that space for his people. And now this offensive that they have launched was predetermined. It was announced. It was expected. It's not as if it's coming as a surprise. But they say it's localized, it's targeted, and it will be limited to the extent that Israel is saying is not seeking to occupy territory inside Lebanon. In fact, Netanyahu has gone further to say, look, the ordinary civilians in Lebanon and also as far as Iran, should just relocate to where they can be safe. They are targeting, after the booby trapping of pagers and also cell phones belonging to the Hezbollah. Now Israel is targeting the installations. The United States was served notice, but the United States is saying, well, Israel has the right to defend itself. The fear is that this could escalate and bring in other parties like US and Iran into the center of the war. Now, the other subject I would have loved to comment on is today is It's Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary. It's also birthday day in other parts of the world. China is celebrating, its National Day today. Mao Zedong had declared October 1 as a National Day for China. So the Chinese, they are on holiday for the next 1 week celebrating. Ooh. But today also marks the 100th birthday of former President Jimmy Carter of the United States. Yeah. Now, he will be the first American president to hit the century mark. Wow. So congratulations to President Jimmy Carter. He left office in 1980, losing to President Ronald Reagan. But he has spent more years in retirement, about 44 years. He left office at the age of 56. And today, even out of office, he has been very useful in serving humanity, in serving his country. He retired to his hometown, and just ran diplomatic shuttles, errands for United States, either in Cuba or in Guinea, and had a lot of humanitarian work with Carter Foundation. Or like some other retired presidents who spend their time going to join boards of companies and trying to make money from speaking engagements. Anyway, congratulations to President Jimmy Carter at 100.
Thank you, Dr. Reuben. Well, let's move on now to some newspaper headlines across the globe. And we begin here in Nigeria with This Day newspaper. And this day's front page is dedicated to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, listing the milestones which include the raising of Nigeria's minimum wage to 70,000 naira monthly, and then also the neutralizing of 3,700 terrorists, as well as the economic stabilization bill. It also quotes the president's Independence Day address, where he says that he's deeply aware of Nigeria's struggles and the voices therein are being heard. Let's move on to the weekly insert called The Lawyer, also within this today's edition of This Day. And the weekly pullout from this day looks at Onikebo Braithwaite's article in The Advocate, and she's called it Freeing Nigeria from the Chokehold. And her article mentions how Nigeria has gone from frying pan to fire. She says that Nigeria's exchanged colonialism for democracy and then autocratic military rule, which was then replaced, as she puts it, by a kleptocratic and somewhat plutocratic version of democracy. It is a very, very interesting read, and it is the insert in today's edition of This Day newspaper. If we move on to the New Telegraph, it also focuses on Nigeria's 64th independence, dedicating a portion of its page again to the president's renewed hope agenda, which goes on to quote him and says that I am deeply aware of your struggles in these challenging times. The president reminding Nigerians that the federal government has attracted $30 billion worth of foreign direct investment in 1 year. The Daily Trust follows this theme of hardship, with President Tinubu saying that he is committed to sustainable solutions, also mentioning that Nigeria is winning the war against insecurity. And then there's more of that from The Punch, with the president saying that Nigeria must reform or collapse. Now, let's move over to the Nigerian Guardian, and it leads with its signature caricatures, where a politician who doesn't appear to have missed any meals is clamoring for more, while saying that people should pray and fast for national development. And then lastly, on the front page of the Daily Independent, it quotes the PDP as the party tells citizens to revive nationalism in defense of democracy. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar says Nigeria is on the brink of a one-party dictatorship. Meanwhile, former President Goodluck Jonathan says Nigerians should be hopeful despite the challenges. One more Nigerian paper, we've got the Daily Graphic. No, actually, moving on to the Daily Graphic of Ghana, and we're leading with strong words from the country's trade minister, who's telling cement producers that they should get licensed or shut down. Let's take some UK papers now, and The Guardian leads with Israel's ground invasion in Lebanon, with the revelation of the Israeli military bombing a home, as I said earlier, killing 10 people. And as you can see, that this headline is actually already dated. Such is the nature of breaking news, especially at this time in the Middle East. And in The Telegraph, in addition to Israel's warning to Iran, The Telegraph also features on its front page news of a disgraced 67-year-old human rights lawyer who's pleaded guilty to fraud after pursuing British soldiers over fake war crimes in Iraq. He also admitted to breaking rules to apply for legal aid in order for his firm to conduct these cases. So, Ayo, as you were saying, it doesn't matter how long it takes, the long arm of the law will reach you.
All right, well, thank you very much,
Always a
Adefemi. We're
pleasure.
out of time, but again, a number of conversations around independence and how people are feeling. The Guardian
Absolutely.
picture, for me, represents quite well the situation of Nigeria currently, where the rich are getting richer and even still trying to grab the little the poor have been resiliently trying to get. But hopefully, things will get better. Thank you.